Hey y'all, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Frankie, and today I'm going to be talking about Marie Antoinette, the wider world that surrounded her and the people that she influenced in the 1780s and 90s in France, and also the movie directed by Sofia Coppola that was released in 2006. I'm basically just going to be covering like all of that and a few other ideas that have sprung to mind that I'm personally curious about. So if you would like to listen to me ramble about this, you're welcome to stick around and watch this YouTube video. Really quickly, before I actually get into talking about Marie Antoinette and her universe, I did want to shout out my social medias really quickly. I have an Instagram page that I'm the most active on out of all of the like social media platforms that exist. So if you'd like to check me out there and see the like day-to-day, week-by-week experiences that I have and post on the internet, you're welcome to check me out. I also have this YouTube channel, which granted I don't post very often. I'm currently a college student and I'm like in the middle of my senior year. So posting extra homework video essays to the internet is a little bit impossible for me right now. I'm hoping that in the start of 23, once I've actually graduated college, this is going to be more of a consistent weekly basis thing. But for now, if you would like to subscribe and click that bell icon, you will get notified when I randomly, sporadically post my videos. I also have a TikTok, but I don't know how to make TikToks. So like, you're welcome to follow my non-functioning dead TikTok page, but I don't think anybody wants to do that. So please don't feel like you need to. Can you tell I'm not very good at being chill on camera? Like, it's been so long since I've done this. I just feel like shaking my hands because I'm like full of butterflies. Also, I've moved and my hair's different. A lot of things have changed in the last couple of months, and I'm not really gonna get into it because it was a roommate situation that didn't quite go to plan, and I had to flee. So yeah, I just don't wanna drag them on the internet. I don't really feel like that's my vibe as a person. We had our times and I lived with those humans, and now I don't, and I live alone, and I've genuinely never been this contented in the last like 6 years that I've lived in Chicago. So that's a nice feeling. Anyway, yeah, I moved, so I just wanted to address that really quick before I actually like move on and people are just like, what the fuck happened to you? Yeah, life. Sidetracked because I'm nervous because I have so much information to cover and I haven't done a video essay that's like this in depth on a topic before. So hello, welcome to Nervous Frankie land. I was so nervous to put this video out. It literally took me a month and a half to actually start editing in depth the raw content that I had gathered for this video. I'm so nervous if this style is like gonna work or not, but sometimes you just have to like dive directly out of your fucking comfort zone and try new things. Also, hi, disheveled editing Frankie here, which is why my background looks unpolished and normal. This is the normal chaos of my existence. I made it pretty for you guys, but like it's normally like this. It's really fun to be in my brain right now. So the main topic for discussion today is Marie Antoinette and the universe that like surrounded her as a person. I first wanted to address this topic through the lens of Sofia Coppola's movie from 2006 as a young 14-year-old girl thrown into this world that she just like doesn't understand and also doesn't have the power to question. She literally is just like thrown into this palace full of complete strangers who strip away her clothes, take her puppy, and like refuse to let her talk to her friends, married off to a man who can't have a conversation with her, and she's expected to be like this icon. Coppola did say that she based the color palette and like the story of Marie Antoinette off of Lady Antonia's Marie Antoinette, The Journey. It's a more of a literally empathetic take on what it was like to be Marie Antoinette. A lot of history paints Marie Antoinette as this like harpy who essentially came to France and then consumed all of their wealth to the point of bankrupting the entire country. But in Lady Antonia's version, it shows literally what it was like from more of a personal perspective of Marie Antoinette's life. And Coppola based their screenplay off of that, and then these 2 cassette tapes that they were listening to about like different rock and roll anthems and old classical big orchestral piece music while writing the script for this. So it was kind of an all-encompassing experience while she was composing this movie. Unfortunately, Marie Antoinette, the movie, is a very pastel candy-coated version of Marie Antoinette's experience. It's centric on the happier-go-lucky parts of her, like childhood going into adulthood, and I want more as a consumer of media. I am curious about the other people in Versailles who came in contact with and made Marie Antoinette's life possible. We just don't get to see those people's stories. So like the servants who built her insanely tall hair, the ladies that kept her little cottage in the woods clean and gardened out front and made it possible for her to like pick strawberries and pretend to be a peasant. All of these people we get very small glimpses of throughout the movie, but I don't know any of their names, let alone stories. And for me, that just doesn't cut it. Personally, if I ever get the opportunity to make an animated, gritty version of Marie Antoinette's story, I am absolutely taking that chance. I am a history fan. I love learning about people's lives in the past, and Marie Antoinette's life is such an interesting one that I would be super fascinated by just like trying to tell her story, but then tell the stories of the people that made her existence possible as well, because they're important too, and we just like don't know who they are. History has forgotten them. One way that Sofia Coppola does tie into the focus on the more humanistic feeling trapped within this golden prison 14-year-old girl vibes, making sure that Kirsten Dunst, who is an adult when she plays Marie Antoinette as a 14-year-old girl, they use this very like Alice in Wonderland but make it 1770s caraco blue dress where there's like a cinched waistcoat over the top of one of the very large fluffy gowns that they had in the Austrian European courts back in the 1750s to 90s, basically. Alice in Wonderland of the past theme actually does crop up a couple times throughout Marie Antoinette the movie. In the very beginning, we meet Marie Antoinette as a child, like being sent off to France, wearing the blue caraco dress. She literally looks like Alice in Wonderland in this moment. She could have fallen through the floor and into the rabbit hole, and it would have been perfect. We then see this dress, and the whole aesthetic of the movie, honestly, was based off of a box of macaroons, the colors of this box of macaroons. And it was actually a really smart idea because it keeps the whole theme and color palette consistent throughout the entire movie, and it ties it well together because we see macaroons. It's a very French dessert, granted, but we see them in a lot of scenes throughout Marie Antoinette. So I like that Sophia took a literal box of macaroons and used that as inspiration for her film. Spot on. Bouncing off of the whole, I guess you could say, the opulence effect of this film, it's very interesting to me that In my personal world and in like culture today, royalty core and basing aesthetics off of royals from the past has become very popular, especially in the LGBTQIA plus community. Like we see in Lil Nas X's video Montero, he dresses up as a Marie Antoinette inspired courtier. We also see Madonna dress up as Marie Antoinette. Many people throughout like parties, social events, occasions, historical get-togethers, everyone is interested in this style of dress, and that translates into like youth culture and media today, which is really nice to see. Also, this really cute factoid that I found out is that apparently after Marie Antoinette's death, dropping her name was like a sapphic code. Lesbians used that. Have you heard of Marie Antoinette's inclinations? I believe that was like the long version of the phrase, but you could also just say Marie Antoinette in like passing to another lesbian, and that was code for, hi, I'm gay, let's fuck, which is incredible. I find that so hilarious, and I definitely am gonna like absorb that into my dialogue now, talking to girls on the internet, because like literally me. We need more cute secret sapphic codes. Contrary to popular belief, Marie Antoinette herself was not actually a lesbian or gay in any capacity. She denied these facts for most of her life, and it was really only her political rivals and the people who were trying to tear down the monarchy who started making political cartoons about her being gay and writing salacious things about her, like ladies in waiting or whatever. So Marie Antoinette herself was never actually gay, but she has become an icon for the LGBTQIA community, which is kind of nice. I don't know if she was ever opposed to gay people, but she herself was also a straight person. It is pushed really heavily throughout Marie Antoinette the movie that there is this like undercurrent of feeling trapped. That is why I kind of identify so highly with this movie, because in my own way, I feel trapped in my life. She, of course, has very different problems than a 21st century working class individual such as myself. Feeling tied in with and connected to this person also makes me empathize a lot more with the movie itself and makes me like watching this movie over and over. Marie Antoinette is a 14-year-old girl told that she's gonna go marry some dude. She's not allowed to keep her dog, which is genuinely like a heartbreaking moment. This child is stripped of her puppy Mops, and I was like, I'm gonna cry. 5 minutes into this movie, I'm gonna cry. So that was terrible. And the whole feeling of just like being stuck in this isolation pastel prison is dropped several times throughout the movie. They like make jokes and innuendos about the fact that Marie Antoinette can't leave Versailles without permission from her husband. Like she literally asks her brother, "Are you here to take me home?" And he replies, "I can't kidnap the Queen of France." This happens a couple of times throughout the movie, and it makes me worried and terrified about what it was actually like for Marie Antoinette to be in Versailles. Obviously, she wanted to be there because she was married to this man and she wanted to fulfill her duties, so it reflected well on her family and on her. But secretly, she could have wanted to like run. She had a lover. She had more interests in the universe than just being the Queen of France. It's really scary to me. These quotes of feeling trapped and being kidnapped and like not being able to leave remind me.
Hi, Spookface.
What do you want? I want you to join me.
Throughout this movie, there are a lot of whispers that follow Marie. They literally, instead of having soundtracks in some of the video clips, they just have these like whispers about Marie Antoinette being an Austrian invader or not being able to sire an heir for the French crown, which brings a lot of pressure down upon Marie Antoinette's head, especially because her mother is also sending her these very demanding letters, basically being like, seduce your husband and have a child now, or you could like be shamed, be thrown out of the palace, and like downgraded past nobility. It could be really bad for her if she wasn't having a child. And the pressures of this definitely start to wear upon Marie by the end of the film. Literally, people are in the hall like yelling after her, give us an heir, give us an heir. And she has to just still be perfect and beautiful and iconic looking and be the queen without showing any signs of weakness, even though she does like fall apart when she's by herself. And there are several scenes within this movie where Marie Antoinette like slides down walls crying. The only time she's ever alone in this whole movie is when she's having a breakdown, which also speaks to like the mental health care of the 1780s and 90s French court. Shove it down, don't think about it. Muscle through it, essentially, and that's ridiculous. She's a teenager trying to like deal with these giant worldly pressures while not being able to leave her palace, and she can't do anything about it, and it's terrifying. Leans into the whole thriller aspect of this movie. I'm so surprised that this movie is not categorized as like a horror or thriller movie. Maybe it's because the actual content of the movie, it's more of like a calming cottagecore reality version of what Marie Antoinette's France was like. But it's a horror movie, it's a thriller movie, because we all know how Marie Antoinette's life ends. Even those of you, like me, who had shitty educational systems like shout things at you and expect you to take 1,000 tests and retain all of that information, it's very hard to like remember anything from history except the interesting deaths. That's like the one thing everybody I've ever talked to who knows anything about history is like remembered. Rasputin. We all know who that is just because he died in such a crazy fashion. Marie Antoinette, same deal. She got her head chopped off for bankrupting France, and an angry mob tried to murder her in her own home. Basically, everybody knows that. So we all know a little bit about Marie Antoinette's life going into this movie, but it's still just such a fascinating, opulent, wild ride that I can't help going down it anyway and enjoying the creation of this movie. To deal with the feelings of pressure from the external world, Marie Antoinette essentially leans into capitalism and luxury and opulence. She just spends and spends and spends money. And then, because it takes about 8 years for Marie Antoinette to actually have a kid from when she was first married to Louis at 14 years old, she develops this habit of leaning into literally I Want Candy, because that was the song that they played in this like insanely beautiful montage, where she's just spending all of the money she possibly can. She's letting her puppies eat all the pastries and like has shoes, gowns. It's amazing. At the same time, we have to remember all of that money and opulence was coming right out of the people of France's pockets. And I'm gonna touch on that later, so I'm just gonna move along. Who doesn't wanna like forget that money exists and just dive into the opulence and wealth and not have to think about the bill for once? I know I do. I wish that I could go out to a nightclub and like not think about the alcohol bill. That would be a great evening. That would be fantastic for me. And speaking of this opulence, I did want to touch on really quickly, it's just like a fashion piece that I loved in this film, but they only show it for like 10 seconds in the entire movie. It's that iconic little scene with Marie Antoinette's boat hair, which is actually a genuine article from history. The boat hair was inspired by a naval victory between the Habsburgs and the Bourbons. Don't ask me who's who. I genuinely could not care less. I have no idea. But Marie Antoinette wore this hair to show her allegiance with France and like celebrate the victory. And because of that, it became a trend for a while for other women in French courts to actually wear these headpieces. Someday I want to make this boat hair. Someday I want this to actually be an accessory in my house. Like, can you picture it? A boat hair accessory that is also like, you could open it up kind of like a fanny pack and a hat, have an opulent baby. That's what I'm going for. Someday I'm gonna make that. I'm hoping it's gonna be like in the spring. We shall see. I love this thing, but they show it so briefly in the movie. It's just like a quick second that could go by if you're not looking. Now, the boat hair and all of this opulence, the like beautiful candy coated montage that we just witnessed, it does spring to mind the question, what happened to Marie Antoinette's servants? All of the people in her home, palace, giant glass bauble, the people that made these desserts, made the boat hair possible. What happened to those human beings when Marie Antoinette actually died and like was taken from her home and imprisoned for several years? Apparently, many of the servants under Marie Antoinette's like roof did escape once all of the princesses of the blood and the higher nobility of Versailles started to flee France when it was obvious that the mob was coming and baying for blood. They fled along with their masters and mistresses, essentially. But it is obvious that at the very end of this movie, Marie Antoinette and Louis are having dinner with the like screaming mob in the background, and they are obviously eating a meal that was prepared by other people. The dinner, which I'm gonna talk about later because it's fucking ridiculous looking. Someone cooked that. Someone prepared that. There's also dudes serving them water in the background. Like, they still have servants at the very end that were there with Marie and Louis and the children as a mob came and essentially broke down the door and imprisoned the royal family. So I am extremely curious about what happened to those people. And from all the research that I did, I don't know. There's not very many accounts out there of what happened to those individuals. So I'm gonna do a little bit more digging and see if I can't come up with some answers. Why I'm so curious about the servants that were serving Marie and Louis at the very end of the movie is because I am a like servant quality person. Wait, that sounded weird. And I'll tell you how I know that. One scene in this movie in particular like struck me hardcore, but for a normal person who hasn't experienced it could just like pass you by really quick. It's this moment when Marie and her new baby daughter, Maria Teresa, were in the cottage garden and pretending to be peasants. Because for some reason, rich people really love doing that. There's some servant girls that come out early in the morning, and you only really get to see their hands in this film, but they wipe off the shit from some chicken eggs and all the like feathers that get stuck to the outside and put them back in the nest so Maria Teresa, the baby of Marie Antoinette, can't pull them out of the nest and pretend to be a servant. The reason I know that this is the most accurate thing I've seen in the entire movie is because that was my job as a 7-year-old child when I was in first grade. My first job was going down to the chicken coop when I woke up in the morning, collecting all the eggs, coming back up to the house, washing the eggs, and then I would sell those eggs to the adults that were dropping off the children at my elementary school. I had green eggs. I was a smash fucking hit because no one has green eggs. No grocery store sells them, and I had green eggs, so I was making bank. But it solidifies the fact to me that I would be a servant if I was alive in Marie Antoinette's court. So the only people that I identify with in this entire movie, apart from just the general feeling of being trapped and Marie Antoinette's longing for a life she can't have vibe, I identify with these young girls' hands who had to wipe shit off chicken eggs. That was my job. That was my thing. And I think it sustained... What did kids buy? What did I buy as a child? Candy, popcorn, snacks I wasn't allowed to have, pretty much. Yeah. Snacks I wasn't allowed to have. It's very interesting to see their take on this, where I as a person would actually like fall on the spectrum of humanity, I guess, in this movie was very interesting for me. I'm a peasant. I am a 21st century peasant, and there's no getting over that fact. Today, I work at Trader Joe's and I work full time, but I live paycheck to paycheck, and I am a 21st century peasant. Marie Antoinette was my escapist fantasy for sure at the beginning of the pandemic, especially that the masked ball dance scene when they're playing the da 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 da. That song, I can't remember what the fucking lyrics are, but that scene, I want to go to a party that looks like that so fucking bad. I just don't have the appropriate attire yet, so we're gonna make that happen eventually. Who doesn't love escaping into a reality where it's basically impossible for me to truly understand what it's like to be a French royal, but it's also not possible for them to know what it is to be me? We love a mind fuck up in here. I wasn't gonna talk a lot about the French Revolution politics of this universe, but I am going to touch on the history and the politics surrounding slavery and people of color in Marie Antoinette. Really quick, the only 2 times in this actual movie where people of color are depicted is the pianoforte tutor who Marie Antoinette runs away from, and the birthday entertainment at her 18th birthday. And I take issue with the fact that those are the only 2 times that we actually see people of color within the entire film. And of course, I forgot this guy because he just follows this white lady around, has no name, no storyline. We're never gonna truly know who he is, and it makes me mad. Unfortunately, it's accurate to what Versailles was truly like. It was a lot of white people. There is a more rich and dense history of how Marie Antoinette impacted slavery and, in a way, actually sparked slavery in America that I would like to talk about right about now. These 2 scenes within the movie where these people of color are relegated to the entertainment and the tutors, it made my skin crawl. It's barely 30 seconds of the entire movie that shows people of color, and these are also characters that we don't know the names of. We don't know their stories. They're just there to prop up the queen. We need more. We need to know more about these humans. So in 1783, Marie Antoinette was actually painted wearing this floaty cotton, more naturally silhouetted gown that they also depict in Marie Antoinette the movie as Kirsten Dunst. English names. Fuck my brain. Kirsten Dunst is running around in her cottagecore fantasy. This particular gown was the last fashion trend that Marie Antoinette really took part in, because 10 years later she would not have a head. This gown, because it was made of cotton and it was more of a light material, this gown sparked a trend in wearing cotton that emboldened the slavery market in America. That, coupled with the invention of the cotton gin that basically made it faster and easier to remove the seeds from the cotton itself so that more cotton could be made faster. The American Revolution had just happened. We literally have Louis discuss sending funds to it in Marie Antoinette. All 3 of those things combined basically sparked slavery to get more intense and worse. The East India Trading Company upped all the prices of cotton because of Marie Antoinette being painted in this gown, and because of her as well, and the trend that she had set amongst the nobility class, the cotton, flowy, light, silhouetted gown trend, which extended into the 19th century, became worldwide. And that was part of the reason that the slave trade became so much more intense after Marie Antoinette passed. It was everywhere. This painting was everywhere, and everyone wanted to wear this dress. Therefore, the cotton market in America grew, and more slaves were actually being brought to America during this time. At the very end of the 18th century into the 19th century, when the North in America sort of abolished slavery, but the South wasn't abolishing slavery. They were actually increasing the amount of slaves that were coming to America and increasing the amount of damage done to people's lives. I did want to mention again, I am no historian and I'm no expert on the slave trade in America or at all what it was like in France. So I highly encourage all of you to do more research on this topic. I have some stuff listed down below if you would like to check out some books on the topic of slavery in America and the slave trade around the world from perspectives of people who lived this experience and their ancestors as well. I know I'm gonna keep researching this topic because I am woefully ignorant on all of this and I need to be better. For more accurate and well-rounded information on the slave trade around the world, you can go ahead and check out some of the links that I have down below, and I highly encourage that you do your own research because there's a lot of information out there and a lot of information that we aren't taught as children in school. Sorry to be all over the place. We just had a really heavy topic that I discussed briefly. I do want to touch on some other aspects of Marie Antoinette the movie before I end this video and turn my air conditioning back on. I did want to touch on the music and the soundtrack written for Marie Antoinette. Apparently, Sofia Coppola, while writing the screenplay and doing the research for this film, listened to two mixtapes, Versailles #1 and Versailles #2, as basically a mashup of all of the artists that she wanted to work with. She reached out to a couple of different bands and orchestral groups and got their permission to use their tracks for her film. And a lot of people wanted to work with Sophia. I've been watching so much Sophia Nygaard that I'm saying Sophia, but it's Sophia.
Have you guys historically reenacted enough?
Tired each other out.
Oh yeah?
I think we've been like, let's walk over there. And then they're over there. And then over there.
That makes sense to me. You guys had so much energy to start the day.
Emphasis on the O. Sofia Coppola did reach out to a lot of these musicians, and people were so interested to work on her film that they took less amounts of money than they should have just so they could be part of this project, which I find awesome. Really quick, some of the people that did work on this film: The Strokes, Bow Wow Wow, New Order, The Cure, I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, Susie, and the Banshees. I don't know what to do with X's. I'm sorry. I can't pronounce that word properly, but all of these people were part of the pop punk rock anthems that we had sprinkled throughout this movie when Marie Antoinette is feeling rebellious and also when she's leaning into her capitalist tendencies, which, let's be real, who doesn't have those moments? I know I have those moments. I'm about to drop $400 on butt tattoos, so we all have those days. It also does, at the very beginning of this movie, the music itself kind of leans into that thriller pastel horror movie vibe by sprinkling in these very ominous sounding music boxes that are kind of tinkly and childhood creepy laughter vibes. And that actually happens a couple of times in this movie, especially when Marie is feeling scared. So look out for those if you're a sound human interested in that kind of thing like me. Keep your ears peeled. Ew. Why does that grosses me out? Why does that gross me out? God, why did Ramsay Bolton just pop into my head in human flaying from Game of Thrones?
Oh yeah.
No. I refuse. Oh my, never mind. I hate my imagination sometimes. Oh my god. The last little thing about the whole music score that I wanted to touch on is the reoccurring kind of stuffy orchestral numbers. They're more old world, realistic to the Rococo era of French courts that we are experiencing in this movie. And it's this one particular piece that they actually play multiple times in the movie same piece of music reused in the film, and I don't hate it. It's very unusual for people to actually do that because it feels sloppy a lot of the times. In films, when you reuse the same score multiple times, it's like, oh, did you not have a budget for this shit? But because they do it at very specific emotional times for Marie, it feels intentional to when she is overwhelmed by her situation, especially when she's like trying to talk to her husband at these extraordinarily weird breakfasts, and she just like can't have a conversation with him because he's the worst conversationalist in the entire universe, genuinely. She like tries to talk to him about keys, and he's just like, yeah, I like keys. It's like, sir, please have a personality. Oh my god. That was my little like take on the whole music thing, the things that I noticed in that. And segueing really nicely into my last thing that I wanted to discuss about the movie, specifically like details in the movie, I want to talk about what they're eating within the film. So there's like 3 different instances that I'm going to talk about of the food in this movie. I don't hear a lot of people actually deep dive or think about the food, but because they have such opulent displays of like these breakfast tables, I just wanted to lightly touch on that. So in this very first one, it is that morning that I just mentioned with Marie trying and failing to discuss keys with Louis. And it looks as though we have an asparagus tower in the center, topping possibly crackers and whole tomatoes, not cooked, they're just whole, surrounded by, I think they might be purple artichokes at the foreground of the like right and left sides of this table. At the very perimeters of the table, we've got these like tall, I think they're called blancmange. It's like a gelatin type pink and white topped with gold birds. Look like desserts, I'm not entirely sure. And then in the very center, it looks like just cream puffs and berries, and I believe Louis is eating like a multitude of these things. Marie looks like she's eating porridge. Possibly it's a metal bowl, so I have no idea. But that's like the first breakfast. A truly strange concoction of foods that I honestly wouldn't have on my own table, but okay. Number 2, it's a scene in the middle of the movie, and we've got a whole pheasant on the table, because who doesn't love staring at dead things when they're eating, especially when they have eyes. On either side of this pheasant, we've got what looks like 2 kind of grayish yellow molded something, like jello or something. I don't know what's underneath the actual pheasant on that plate. It's just like a dark browny reddish green concoction. Could be bread, could be vegetables, could be meat, I don't know. On the very edges of the table, it looks like we've got 2 tall tureens of like red berries, and then just green foliage underneath. It doesn't even look like Marie or Louis has like a plate on the table, because I think this is one of those scenes when they were interrupted at dinner and like made to leave, so maybe the props people didn't even put plates on the table. I'm not entirely sure why that happened, but there you go. Oh, and also I totally forgot, at the very foreground of this picture, we've got like a line of what looks like yellow preservative jellies or like jellos, but it also kind of looks like we've got like peppers or pickles suspended within the actual molds, and I am disturbed. I don't know. Let me know what you think. Last but not least, we have the final feast at Versailles, which I touched on earlier in this film. There's clearly servants in this picture, these 2 dudes who are like serving wine and water to the couple. Plus, I'm sorry, this feast is kind of ridiculous and definitely took like several people to make, because we've got on either side of the table what looks like carrots, cucumbers, tomatoes, a couple of like vegetable options in these silver tureens. I can't see what is super up in the foreground, but I think it's more tomatoes. In the very center of the table is this like, I don't know how to describe this. It looks like 2 fish covered in slices of zucchini for some reason, or cucumbers, topping an eggy cake with like orange slices fitted into the outside. I'm not trying to be disgusting. It just, like, this is what it looks like. There's shells underneath the, like, rim of that little tower, and then it looks like we've got steak tartare on small shells with slices of lemon around the outside of this fish tower. I don't know. This is their last meal in their, like, giant palace castle. I'm so curious. I'm never gonna be able to taste any of this, which that would be awesome. If we could have, like, a Bridgerton experience, but instead of dancing, you just give me all of the food from this movie on a giant table and, like, let me sample tiny bits of it, I would buy a ticket to that event so fucking fast. Because I'm just curious about what all of these food concoctions are. Who came up with this? What are they? What are they truly? The last thing I want to discuss is this question that I want to leave you all with. Knowing all these things, understanding a larger picture of Marie Antoinette's life and world and what it was like to be a person around her or herself, why is it that I still want to emulate Marie Antoinette's style? Knowing where I fall on the social food chain, I still want these beautiful giant skirted dresses, even though I'm almost entirely sure I would not be able to fit one of those things in my apartment. This little hole, like the dark space right here, that's my second closet. And that is gonna be full of all of my, like, fun pieces of clothing that I'm gonna make myself. I don't think I'd be able to get one of those dresses in that space. So I'm not sure if I'm gonna ever be able to own one, or the, like, giant hair that's like a foot tall that she has. All of the beautiful shoes, all of these insanely wonderful garments. And I know all of this, all the things that she did to the peasants that, like, starved to death in her care, essentially. Not to mention all the pain and suffering Marie Antoinette caused so many people's lives for participating in this dress trend that sparked the institution of slavery to get so much worse in America. Just because she was dead doesn't mean she wasn't responsible for ripping families apart and creating so much pain. The French Revolution, all of the people that, like, came and destroyed her universe because she was so blind to the situation that was happening in her country. Ignorance can get you killed and beheaded and have your entire family killed and beheaded. Knowing these terrible things, I still want the clothes. I still want the food. I still want to watch Marie Antoinette, directed by Sofia Coppola, many, many times in the future in my life. And it's funny, I'm, like, grappling with why that is. And I think it's just not being able to have access to this luxury and wealth that is portrayed in this movie in my own world. And having, like, the small snippets of experience that this media gives me the opportunity of experiencing, having that tiny taste is so addictive that I can't take that out of my brain. I can't get rid of the want and the need and the desire to emulate this world, even though I know this world was doomed from the day she set foot outside that tent and was, like, taken away from her world. Doomed. That was one of the titles that a lot of people gave her. And I still want to be part of this world. It truly is a mindfuck, and it is a question that I'm going to keep grappling with probably for the rest of my life. Knowing that with ignorance, Marie Antoinette essentially got all of her family and her friends murdered by the servants and the peasants who just wanted to live their lives. These people didn't want to, like, be part of a revolution. They didn't want to be starved to death and worked to death, but they were, to make this beautiful, opulent place happen. And even knowing that she transformed all of these people's lives for the worse, honestly, I still want a slice of that life. I still want to understand what it was like to be her. And that, I think, is what makes her so iconic to this day, because her life is such a push and pull, emotional drama. 200 and I think it's 40 years later, she is still an icon. She is still a topic for videos like these. She is still influential. And I honestly think it's probably going to continue just because her life was such a roller coaster of political power, of insecurity, of ignorance, of not wielding power properly or understanding or even being taught how to wield power properly. Such an interesting topic. I could talk about this for ages, and I've been talking for about an hour on this subject already. But yeah, I wanted to bring that question forth. I want to make sure that anybody who's watching my videos on these kinds of subjects is also questioning, like, why are you interested in watching a video on this? It's not going to stop me from loving this universe. It's not going to stop me from loving this movie, but it is a question that I want to keep thinking about. And with that, I'm going to call this the end of my Marie Antoinette video. So thank you to all of you who actually stuck around and finished watching this YouTube concoction. I am getting used to the whole video essay format, but I'm really enjoying this, and I'm definitely going to do some more deep dives on different subjects. If you have any comments about things that I may have missed, or other subjects that I should look into, books and reference materials that you yourself have found that you would like to share, please go ahead and comment down below. I would love to hear your thoughts. I'm very fascinated on if any of you actually liked Marie Antoinette the movie, any of you who hated the movie. I'm very interested in your take on this. I like the movie, so anybody who has an opposing opinion to me, I'm like, bring it on. Bring it on. Show me what you got. Really quick, before I end this video, I am, again, Instagram, linked down below. You can check that out if you're feeling it, or go scroll through the rest of my YouTube videos if you are so inclined. Any subscribers, I'm very grateful because I'm so small and so alone in my little corner of the internet. I hope you all are having a wonderful day or night wherever you are in the world or the universe, and I will see you down in the comments below in this video and in my next one. Bye all.